And by the end of that class, we have reached this slide. Now, what's the network trends? Simply, we know that the device keep updating, the device keep developed. So the network have what, or should what, be able to cope with this technology, adopt this technology, because the end user devices keep updated. So the network should support any technology updates simply. So what we are going to talk about, we are going to talk about some trends that affects the organization or affects the consumer. For example, BYOD, you need to memorize the standards. Not only for this one, all the shortcuts we are going to face in our class, you should, or in our course, let me say, especially the protocols. You need to memorize them. So we need to know what does the bring your own device means. Online collaboration. A simple example about the online collaboration is what we are doing now. A team, we can share a video, we can have instance message, we can also use a voice call. Video communication, it's also, let me say, somehow online collaboration, but we are sharing or using a video as a communication. Data exchanged within the medium. What's the cloud computing? And I'm sure 99%, if not 100% of you have heard about the client and know what's the, cloud, not the client, and what's the main concept of the client, the cloud computing. Now, simply what does the bring your own device means? You are a student at Arab Open University. We have a Wi-Fi at that university. So you can connect to our Wi-Fi from your mobile. في حد عنده مشكلة بالصوت؟ والله فايبر كونكشن اللي قاعد بشرح منه، عاد هذه مصيبة إذا بيقطع. في حد عنده مشكلة بالصوت؟ ما بدنا نقعد صوت ما شفت. يعني ممتاز. Sound is clear. خلاص بس خلونا أساس إنه الشاتم مزعجة يعني تبقى تظهر. طيب. So bring your own device, whatever your device, laptop, notebook, tablet, smartphones, e-book readers, whatever. These devices can communicate or can connect to the network. They can access the information available in the network. So this is simply what does bring your own device means. Any device, any end user personal device can be used to connect to the network. Even if you are not a student, if you are an employee worker in some organization, they will give you the ability to bring or to use your personal device. Now, when we talk about the online collaboration, collaborate and work with others by using what? A network on joint project. Now we are collaborating with each other. So one of the examples as a collaboration tool provided by Cisco is WebEx WebEx application or WebEx solution. So it gives the user a way to instantly, immediately, real life, connect and interact with each other. So collaboration usually considered very important solution or network trends for a business, for education, for conducting meetings between colleagues, friends, whatever. So, what are the tools or the main function provided by WebEx, for example? Collaboration solution provided from Cisco. Send an instant message. This is what we are doing now, exactly when we write any message on the dialog box. Post an image. You can share data, let me say. Post a video and link. So what? It's a new solution for online collaboration. Now, as you see, we have, for example, here, we have a video. It's talking about WebEx solution. So, from where I can play this one and watch it? From the Net Academy. You will have the ability to run this video actually. Now, back to the video communication. What we can do, for example, what are the main functionals? Video calls are made to anyone, regardless of their location. It becomes an issue at all, or we are free of the location of the receiver of the video call. Video conferencing is a powerful tool for communicating with each other. It becomes a critical requirement. For example, I'm talking about the video calls for effective collaboration. For example, give me an example about a video communication solution Cisco telepresents. Powers, one way of working where everyone and everywhere can use and communicate using the video over this solution, telepresence. So WebEx, online collaboration, telepresence, video communication. It might be a multiple choice question. Which of the following is an online collaboration solution? What BYOD stands for? It might be a question as well. And actually, if you decide to get an official certificate from Cisco, you will see that usually the exams are online exams with multiple choice questions. Even if it's a practical, they will give you a scenario and they will ask you about that scenario, and the answer should be selected from set of choices. Now, what about the cloud? Cloud simply allows to the user, for example, the users can store their personal files over the network and somewhere else using a different server in different country, in different location, but that device connected to the internet. So in order to get the features or get the benefits from the cloud, first important point, we need to be connected to the internet. Also, for example, I have a TMA. The TMA should be submitted tomorrow. My office crashed on my laptop. What I can do is that means I'm not going to submit and solve my TMA. No, you can access online software or online application over the cloud. So no need even to install that software in your laptop or PC. So we can store personal files, backup our data on a server over the internet. Application can be accessed as well by using the client. Allow businesses to deliver a service to any device anywhere in the world. Why? They will lease a server on the cloud. They will use that server to provide the services. For example, their main website, where through that website you can order something or track something. So no need to have a personal infrastructure network, no need to have a server room and technical team. What I can do, rent a server, lease a server over the cloud, use that one for hosting purposes. So smaller company sometimes cannot afford their own data center. They cannot have their own data center. So what we can do in this case, we can lease, نستأجر, a server and the storage services from a larger data center, and we can use it for our, or to provide our services. Now, cloud computing can be divided into four main types. Public cloud means available in public through pay per user, so we can pay per user, or it might be a free. No fees at all, because the users types are end users. We have a private cloud, private for a specific organization or entity such as a government, private for X company only. We have a mixed hybrid clouds. It made up of 2 or more cloud types. It can be, for example, public and private. It can be public and customs. For example, a part custom and another part made a public. Now, each one of these public cloud or custom cloud totally remains distinctive, isolated from each other, but both of them connected using the same architecture. So we have 2 clouds over the same architecture, no problem. I can access the public if I'm a public user. I can access the custom if it belongs to that cloud type. So custom simply a special custom cloud built to meet a specific industry. For example, healthcare, media, any other specific industry, specific type. It's a specialized cloud, let me say, for a specific task only or a specific type. So custom can be private or public. Because of this, we said hybrid, mixed between 2 different types. Any question؟ بس سريع هيك نتأكد انكم معنا. طيب, perfect. Now, let us talk about the technology trends in the home, at our home. Now, first one, and you have taken introduction about it in some previous courses, the smart home technology. Smart home simply means all my device or all my appliances at my home. My TV, my AC, my oven, my garage, my light system, whatever. It becomes interconnected with each other through a smart network. So it gives me the ability as a user to control it from outside the home network through the cloud system or through the cloud solution or through the internet. For example, you will have a calendar. You will add some activities on that calendar. I will be at home at 3 p.m. So according to your schedule in the calendar, the AC, for example, will start working to 50 p.m. For example, I prepare the meal, but I need to cook that meal for a specific period, but I'm not available at the home. Suppose we have a smart oven. This is the Internet of Things, by the way, a branch of the IoT. So the oven will know from the calendar what's the time to cook the meal and for how long. So what is this? A smart technology or a network technology trends available for the home systems. So we are talking about a smart home technology. And actually now it's being developed for all the rooms, for all the parts within a house. Now, power line network. This one is very important. Suppose you are living in very big house and you have a wireless access point, but you notice that the access point cannot reach the rooms. So what you are going to do, some one of you will say, okay, we can use the repeater. Why? To reinforce the signals so it can reach the rooms? I will say yes. But what in case the cabling of the network solution, the wireless of the network solution is not available? We cannot use a wired, we cannot use the wireless, there is no option. You can use the regular power line networks. استخدم اسلاك الكهرباء العادية نفسها اللي موجودة عندك للإنارة. What we call this power line network. So simply you need this adapter. It's 4-port adapter. It can be a single port adapter. 4 ports means we have 4 Ethernet ports. Or it can be a single one here. So what we need, why we need this device? Simply the power line network use the standard power line adapter. تستخدم الكهرباء العادية. So as you see, this is the power line. So when we plug our power line device in the regular power line, now this ordinary power lines become the network medium. What does that mean? Data network will be transmitted over the normal power line at specific frequency. So this is simply the power line network. استخدم الكهرباء العادية والأسلاك العادية as a network now to connect my devices. So we can using the standard power line adapter. In this case, the device will connect to the line whenever there is a LAN, electrical outlet, مخرج, okay, by sending the data on certain frequency. So this power line will connect it to the access point or the router, either wireless, or we can have use one of the ports through a cable from here. Now, we can send the data to any our device plugged here or connected here. For example, we have a wireless router. We cannot connect our smart TV to the LAN, WLAN. So what we are going to do, adapter will be connected. The other adapter is already connected to this one, so we can connect our smart TV to this adapter. Clear? Is it clear what's the main idea of power line? Now, one of you will ask a very simple question. How come we are going to send a data network over a power line? My answer will be very simple and very easy. Now, when you have a DSL connection, you are using the phone call. Now, regardless of its disadvantages, Khalid, we are talking about the technology now, not the details, just the main idea of the technology. We use the phone cable to transmit the data. So we can use the power line cable to transmit a signal and data as well. But it should be with different frequency. So power line network can consider useful when the wireless access point cannot reach all the devices at home. So it can consider as what? One of the available solutions. Now, another solution, wireless broadband. So in addition to the DSL and the cable, wireless is another option can use to connect homes and the small businesses to the internet. Why? Why wireless broadband? There is no solution services at that area. For example, we are talking about a rural environment, المناطق الريفية خلينا نقول. So in this case, the only available solution is WIBS, Wireless Internet Service Provider. So it's an IBS solution to connect the subscribers, for example, this home, to a specific access point or hotspot. So the wireless broadband is also a solution for the home and the small system or small businesses. Usually we are going to use the mobile network or the similar network as the mobile network we use it to connect our phones to the cellular technology. So what we need an antenna installed outside the house. This antenna will provide a wireless, will have a wireless connection with the broadband services. Then you can simply use a wired connectivity to another device at home. Yani, at the top here, we might have an antenna. We can later on line a cable, and we can plug this cable with access point router in the home. So all the wireless now or the internet connectivity is available for all the devices at home. When we need the broadband solution, wireless broadband, in case there is any other alternative, rural environments. So it will be based on what? The mobile network as an internet services. Any question? طيب, network security is very important. It's very important and a crucial issue. We need to protect our software, our data, our devices. Now, we know that the network comes in different sizes. Regardless of the network size, you are requested and responsible to protect your network. How we can protect and secure our network? We can use many solutions or measurements. For example, many protocols providing a security solution like the secure shell, TLS, SSH, okay, Telnet. No, it's not secure, sorry. Telnet, VPN solution. We can use the technologies, antivirus, anti-spyware, firewall solution. We can use a tool, we can use the techniques. Now, why we need all of these? To protect our data and mitigate, handle the threats. When I say threats here, I'm talking about the attack. And just keep in your mind, threats vectors, مصدر الهجوم خلينا نقول, the hacking source. It can be internally within the local network, or it can be external threats. So it's not always from outside. Sometimes malicious employee can be the source of the attack within your LAN network. So let us have example about some external threats and internal one. Viruses, worm, Trojan, spyware, adware, external threat. Zero-day attacks. Think about it. Threat actor attacks, the hackers. Denial of service attack, DOS. A type of attack will stop the services, will prevent my network users to access the ordinary services. Data interception and theft. Someone in the middle between the sender and the receiver can access the data and access its content. Identity theft. Stealing the identity for someone else for a malicious activity. For example, stole your data in order to create a fake ATM card, fake passport, fake access in order to access data they are not authorized to access or use or see. So it's identity thief. Now, what about the zero-day attack? Zero-day attack is the type of attacks where the vulnerability in your attack will become appear after it happens. يعني zero-day attack أول يوم الأتاك بتصير عندك بالنتورك وتصبح واضحة لك، بنسميه zero-day attack. كان عندك مشكلة أنت مش منتبه لها، صارت اليوم صار عندك اتاك، في عندك بورت مفتوح ما كنت منتبه، صار الاتاك، هذا الزيرو دي اتاك. انا انتبهت، ولكن انتبهت ايش؟ بعد ما صارت المشكلة عندي مش قبل، فبنسميه زيرو دي اتاك. Now internal, the device is lost, stolen devices, accidental misuse، بالغلط اليوزر حذف شيء، فتح بورت، did something to the firewall, whatever. Or it can be simply a malicious employee. الموظف نفسه عارف انه راح يضرك وناوي يضرك. disgruntled employee، ساخط ما بيحب شغله مثلا. فهاي كلها ايش؟ threats can affect the security level of our network. Now what we can do, we need to protect ourselves by implementing what? Multiple layers of measurements. We need to implement more than security solution, not a single one. For example, when we talk about the small network, we talk about the small office network or the home network, we can for sure install antiviruses and anti-spyware software. It should be installed on end devices. We can also use the firewall filtering solution, and usually the firewall used as a solution to block any unauthorized access to the network. So any source of the attacks or the threats trying to access my network from the internet, the firewall will block that user to get in my network and access my network. How? Firewall simply is a scanner. All the in and out packets should be scanned, or the in and out. When I say in and out, I'm talking about the packets that will enter my network or exit my network. So it will be scanned by the firewall. For example, it's a normal white, it can in my network. If it's a suspicious or at the blacklist classification, it will be blocked. So it will not reach my local network. So at the home level or the small office, the solution available to be implemented, only these two solutions, let me say. But we can also what? Take a backup. For example, even if it's a single PC, copy the important data you have in your hard disk by using an external one. Now, when we talk about a large network, we have additional security requirements. We will not use a simple firewall solution. We will use a dedicated firewall system. Now, at home level, our access point or router will act as a router, access point, and firewall solution. In larger companies, it will be a dedicated server, a separate solution. Access control list, one of the routing solution. The router will scan the packets and control the access. And you are going to study it in full details in CCNA 2, I think, or 3. Intrusion prevention systems, systems only installed to what? Detect any source of attack and protect our network locally. We can use the VPN solution, secure a private connection over a normal network. So the study of the network security starts with a clear understanding of the underlying switching and routing infrastructure. As you will see within the network material for the CCNA T216, we'll talk about the switching and the routing infrastructures, then we'll discuss the network security solutions. Finally, what I have here, I will just go quickly. Types of certificates you can get or attend their final exam through Cisco Academy. Most of you have heard about the CCNA, CCNB, CCIE. Do we have some other certificates after CCIB? For sure, yes. there is types of jobs. Inshallah, when you become a certified users, and also you get your bachelor degree. Now, model quiz and the practice, what we have learned in this unit. Any question? We did not complete the class. We just finished what we have to do last class, and we still have another one. Now, listen to me carefully. I'm going to record model 2, okay? So let us agree that we may record all the classes starting from now. Just I need to plug my laptop on the power, please. Give me a minute. طيب. Just okay, before we start, we are going to cover module 2. I'm going to record module 2. By the way, this one should be covered last class as well. Now we are going to talk about some practical here, some practice, especially the packet tracer. So just to simplify the class with you, I'm going also to open the packet tracer, but I will not show you how to do all the configuration. Only the first part, how we can navigate between the configuration modes, how we can enter the configuration modes. لا لسه ما سويت سيرش، ما سويت شيء، okay? And so on. So just a second, I need to even I will close my packet tracer. I will open it. I just preparing something here. Right. Now, you can see the presentation. طيب تمام. Just a second. Okay. Now, what we are going to talk about, we'll talk about Model 2. What we are going to cover, network devices operating system, iOS, basic switch, and in-devices configurations. So, main objectives of this class, we'll talk about the iOS, Internet Work Operating Systems for Cisco. We are going to talk about the iOS navigations, the portions or the levels of the operating system, the main command structures, basic device configuration, how we can store the configuration, what's the ports and the address of the ports, how you can configure an IP address for your end device, and finally, how we can verify our connectivity. So, before we start, Cisco iOS Access operating system. Actually, the family of network operating systems used on many Cisco devices called Cisco Internet Work Operating System. I did not get your question. Yes, it's a CCNA material actually. We are taking CCNA 7 now, version 7, the latest one. I will talk about this, Ya Faisal, once I cover the module, okay? So, iOS is the type of the operating system adopted and developed by Cisco, and it's used by Cisco devices. iOS, Cisco stands for Cisco Internet Work Operating System. Now, all the network devices, let me say, our PCs, our end devices, our computers, regardless of that computer device, the network devices require an operating system. According to this figure, when we look to the operating system, we can see that it's divided into 3 levels or 3 portions. At the center, we have the hardware component, the physical parts of the computing device or of that device, of a computer and the electronic devices. Okay? Now, we have 2 other portions of the operating system, shell and kernel. Now, what's the shell? The shell simply is the interface or the user level. The interface that allows the users to request a specific task from the computer and interact with the computer. Now, how we can request that service at the shell level? We can use 2 different techniques. We can use command line interface, CLI, and this is what we will use to configure the network devices, or we can use the ordinary GUI, graphical user interface. Second portion of the operating system is the kernel. Kernel simply comes at the middle. So it's communicate between the hardware and the software of a computer and manages how the hardware resources are used to meet the software requirements. So it's the interaction or the interface between the software and the hardware. Without it, you cannot install, run your software over the hardware. Now, what about the GUI? We already classified the shell portion, and we said we use it to send a request. We can use a GUI, graphical user interface, or command line interface. GUI allows the user to interact with your system using environments of graphical icons. So we are using a graphical user interface simply. We have an icons, menus, dialog boxes, or windows. It's a user-friendly, simple to be used, require less knowledge from the user in order to start use it and get the benefits from that interface. For example, we have many operating systems provided in order to interact with our hardware, the computer system, install a software, use those software applications to perform some tasks. For example, Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Apple iOS, Android solution, if we are talking about the smartphone operating systems. Now, it's a common that the GUI might fail or crash or simply will not operate as specified. It's a common problem, might appear in most of the GUI solutions. So because of this, or for this reason, network devices typically accessed through CLI interface, command line interface. So you will access the network devices through the CLI. This is what we will learn today. You will configure your device through the CLI. What we are going to do when we use the CLI, command line based interface. Whatever you want to do on your device, it will be a text based. There is no GUI, as you see here. So why we need an operating system? What's the purpose of an OS? Operating system or end devices, PCs. Operating system enable the user to do the following. For example, we can use the mouse, to make selections and run programs. We can enter a text and text-based comments. We can view the output on a monitor. Now, what about the command line interface, CLI? CLI-based network operating system enables a network technician to do the following. A network technician, as you see. We can use the keyboard to run CLI-based network program. We can use the keyboard in order to enter a text and text-based commands. We can view the output, let me say, as a text-based format as well on a monitor. So normally it's like the CMD, which is available in all of the operating systems. Now, in order to configure your end devices, now all the end devices needed to be configured. Sometimes the switch will start forward the traffic by default and does not need any configuration to operate and attend their function. But regardless of that, now the switch, even if it's a brand new, it can start, function, and perform its functions without a configuration. But regardless of this, okay, all the network switches need to be configured. All the network intermediary devices need to be configured. So we need a method to access that device and configure that device. So how we can access a network device in order to configure that device? We have three access methods can be used. We can use the console, we can use the secure shell as such, and we can use a terminal. So what's the console? Console, as you see here, a special physical management ports. It has at the two terminals, one a serial connection and Ethernet connection. Okay? So console simply is a physical management port used to access a device in order to provide a maintenance, such as what? Performing initial configurations. Please be careful, initial configurations. Now, so console simply physical management ports. It's provide what we call it out-of-band access. Not in-band. We have in-band access and out-of-band access. So the console is classified as out-of-band access to any Cisco device. Out-of-bands means we are going to communicate with that device by using dedicated management channel that is used for a device maintenance purposes only. Dedicated management channels to maintain that device. This is the console port. So what's the advantages? Advantages of using the console, that we can access the device even if no network services are configured. It's a brand new router. It's a brand new switch, and it should be configured. The only way we can configure that device at that time is to use what? The console access method, the special management port, because it's not configured. It cannot access within the network. So usually we use it for initial what? Configuration. Okay, now SSH, secure shell, used in order to establish a secure remote CLI connection, remote command line interface connection to a device through a virtual interface over the network. Now, this one usually is recommended method for remotely connecting to the devices. But what's the problem with the SSH? SSH is classified as in-band, not out-band access. It's recommended, as we say, for remotely establishing a secure command line interface connection over the virtual interface. But if we compare it with the console access method, unlike the console, SSH connection required what? Active network device. Active. The device should be linked with the network. It's an active device in order to access it from outside or from a remote connection. So it's required active network services on the device, including active interface as well, which will be configured with an IP address. Otherwise, we cannot establish SSH connection. Last one is the telnet. Telnet simply is similar to the SSH connection, but the main difference between them that the SSH is a secure connection, while the telnet, it's not secure. Let me say insecure, for example. So telnet establishes insecure remote connection to a device over the network. User authentication, passwords, commands will be sent over the telnet as a plain text. This is the main weaknesses. When you try to connect a device by using the telnet connection, they will ask you to enter your username. You will enter the username, password to authenticate the user, the commands. All of these will be sent on the network in a plain text format. As it is, it can be read, intercepted by anyone else. While in the secure shell, user authentication, passwords, command will be encrypted and sent as a ciphertext, encrypted text, let me say, not in the plain text format. Finally, keep in your mind that the telnet is in-band method or access method as well. So only the out-band access method is what? Is the console. Now, sometimes we can also use some software or some special software in order what? To connect and configure our devices. We call these terminal emulation program or simulation programs. So terminal emulation programs are used to connect to a network device either by console connection, or we can use what? SSH or telnet. So the three access methods are available for the emulation solutions. We have a different emulation programs can be used to connect and configure. For example, we can use the PuTTY, we can use Terman, we can use Secure, CRT. Why we need it? Establish a connection and configure your device. And you will see something very close to this within the practical part today. Now, any question? So far, so good. خلينا نقول. طيب. Now, please focus. Let us navigate the Cisco Internetwork Operating System. Simply, Cisco iOS software separates the management access into the following two commands modes. Now, in order to configure, manage your device, in Cisco iOS, we have two general management modes. The first mode is called user exec mode or executable mode, let me say, and we have the privileged exec mode. Okay? Now, user exec mode is the first configuration level, let me say, management level, not a configuration even. Sorry, it's not a configuration, management level. Okay? This mode comes with limited capabilities. Means what? Only specific limited comments can be executed at this level. So allows access only to limited number of basic monitoring comments. We have limited set of comments can be executed at the user exec mode. Usually identified by the CLI prompts that ends with a greater than symbol. Usually how you know that you are now at the user exec mode? You need to check the prompt here at the end. What we have now, the device name here, it's a router. The device name is a switch. But what we have at the end, a greater than symbol. It means we are at the user exec mode. Okay? Now, the other level is called a privileged exec mode. Allows access to all commands and features. Allows access to higher configuration modes. We can, from the privileged executing mode, access higher configuration mode called a global configuration mode. Usually identified by the symbol hash. So a device name and hash. Is this point clear? We have two configuration modes, a user and a privileged. Now sometimes the privileged modes can be called enable mode. We call it enable mode sometimes. Now, I will show you in a practice how to do this. Now, what we have mentioned before that, we have mentioned that we have two main access modes, a user and a privileged. Now, from the privileged, we can access one more higher configuration mode called a global configuration mode. So global configuration modes is used to access configuration options on a device. As you will see later on, some of the commands can be executed at user mode. Another one should be run at the privileged. Another should be at the global mode or the global config mode. Now, usually this mode is identified also by the device name, config like this, between braces, and the hash symbol. Now, once we enter the global configuration mode, we can enter another sub-configuration modes. Let me say sub, like the line and the interface configuration mode. Line, usually used to configure the console, secure shell, telnet, auxiliary ports as well, the UX access. So how we know it's a line? Device name, the word config dash line. So where we are now, we are at the line configuration mode. Finally, we have another sub mode, can be accessed through the global, not from the user. You cannot access it from the privileged. You must move or navigate from the user to the privileged, from the privileged to the global, then from the global we will enter the line or we will enter the interface. The question, can I jump from the interface to the line? Yes. From the line to the interface? Yes as well. So interface mode used to configure a switch ports, router ports, interfaces. So it's very important to know what we can do also at each one of these configuration modes. So we can simplify the configuration or the hierarchical structures of the modes as the following. We have two main command modes, the user and the privileged. User, limited function with limited capabilities, for example, ping can be at the user mode. Show what? We will see enable, it's limited as a command at the user mode. From the user mode, we can access the privileged exec mode. So we can access all the configuration commands, actually, debug commands. We can reload our device, configure our device. In order to configure the device, we need to access the global configuration mode. As you see, it comes in different color. So what we can do at the global, for example, change the device name by using the host name, enable secret, encrypt the password, IP routing, and so on. Now, finally, from the global configuration mode, what we can do, we can access sub-configuration mode like the interface, router, and the line. So interface, we can access the Ethernet, the gigabit Ethernet, fast Ethernet, serial. For the router, for example, we can do the routing like the OSPF, Open Shortest Path First. For the line, we can access the virtual terminal, VTY, console, connection, secure the mode or the line configuration mode. Now, any question until now? Now I'm going to share the full screen and I'm going to start using the packet tracer. Now from where you can download the packet tracer, it's already available at the net account. Okay? Now, this is the interface of the packet tracer. What I'm going to do, simply create a console connection between a switch and a PC. Open the command line interface to show you what we can do. Now just let me try to enlarge it. From here, we can select the device type. For example, I need a switch. Just drag and drop the switch. Okay? Now I need a PC. In devices, as you see, we can click on the end devices. We can select any type we need. So I need a normal PC. So I have a single switch and I have a PC. Now what I need to do, I need to create a connection access method. What we have SSH telnet console. Which one? Out of band access, out of band, this switch is still not configured. So I need to use what? The console connection. Okay? Exactly. Now how we can use the console? As you see, simply click on this icon, connection style. And when you move or navigate through them, you can know what's the type of each one of these. Automatically console connection, console, straight, crossover, fiber, phone, coaxial, and so on. So I need this one. I need a console. Click here and click on the switch. One more time. We click on the console and we click on the switch. What we have? We have all the interfaces, fast Ethernet 1, 2, 3, up to 24. We have 2 gigabit Ethernet interfaces or connection, and what I have? One console. Click on the console. So it's plugged now with a switch. Now I need to connect it with a PC. As you see, just click on the PC. We'll not use USB 0 or 1 or the fast Ethernet. We'll use the RS232. So now we have a switch and a router communicated through console cable. Now, how I can open the CLI? How I can configure my switch? We will work from the PC side. Click on the PC. Go to the desktop, select terminal, click OK. Now once we press enter, as you see where we are now, we are at the user execute mode. Clear? One more time. Click desktop terminal OK. So I'm at what? The user execute mode. Now, how we can navigate between the modes? It's very essential and important to do the practice of this. I'm going to do it this time only. Exactly. Now, to move from or to navigate between the modes, how we can navigate between the modes? Simply, as you see here, to move from the user mode to the privileged mode, we use the command enable. So if you type enable and click enter, as you see the prompt will be changed to the hash, which means we are now at the the privileged execute mode. In order to move back one level up, we can use a disable or we can use exit. So let us try. Enable, enter. As you see, I am now at the privileged mode. Disable. We move back to the user mode. One more time, enable. Try to use exit. Exit everything. And back one more time. We exit the switch, sorry, exit here. So we can use a disable and enable to navigate between the user mode and the privileged mode. From the user to the privileged, enable. Move back, we can use disable. Now, how we can access the global configuration mode? One by one, how we can access? In order to access the global configuration mode, you must move. You must switch to the privileged mode. From the privileged mode, you can access the global. How? Write the command config T. I did not talk about it. فثواني 1 second. الآن بدي أشوف مين اللي كتب config T بس. Yasser, let us assume we don't know the shortcuts. We don't know anything, okay? Let us assume we don't know anything. We are learning from the scratch. So one by one. Thank you, Yasser. Thank you. So, in order to access, anyone else has a connection problem? Can you see my screen? The PowerPoint. Can you hear me clearly? طيب. So it's a problem with the student. خلاص يا جماعة. Please, enough. Only one to answer me is enough. As you see, I cannot control the chatting from here. I should close each one of it. So, now, back to the mode. We are now at the user. Enable, we enter the user mode. Now how we can access, the privileged mode. From the privileged, how we can jump to the global configuration mode. What you need to type as a command, configure terminal. Type configure terminal. So let us try configure terminal. Enter. As you see, now we already entered the global configuration mode. Device name config hash, which means you are now at the global configuration mode. How I can back to the privileged mode? Exit. Exit. Now, we are now one more time at the global configuration mode. Once you enter the device, you will be at the user. You need to jump from the user to the privileged, from the privileged to the global. You cannot access from the user mode to the global configuration mode. The global configuration mode accessed only from the privileged mode. Be careful. Follow the structures. Follow what we discussed. Now I'm at the privileged mode. One more time. Configure terminal. Enter. So we are at the configuration mode. In order to move back, to return to the privileged mode, what you need to type? Exit. Now, how we can access the line configuration mode now? To move in and out to the line configuration, we use the line command followed by the management type, line. From the global configuration mode, by the way. And it's very important. Now we might ask you, we will give you the command. We will ask you, this command can be executed at which mode? User, privileged, global, line, for example. So line, what's the management type? Line should be followed by the management type, line, console, and we have a single console port on the switch. So it will be numbered as a 0. Let me enter the line console management port, which is numbered at 0. Enter. As you see now, what we have, a device name, global configuration, we are at the line configuration mode now, line, and the symbol hash. To move out to the global configuration mode, exit. To exit the global configuration mode, one more time, exit. So we are at the privileged mode. واضح? Because I'm going to stop this one now. You need to open the NetAcad. You need to open the NetAcad and practice by yourself. All the activities are there. There is no benefits if I will do the practice. If I do it by myself, you will just see, okay, it's simple, I can do it. Later on, you will not be able to solve the TMA. You will not be able to solve the TMA. You will not be able to solve the chapters, exams. Practice is your responsibility. We are giving you the guidelines how to practice. But I'm not going to do all the activities for you. You should do it and refer to me within the office hour in case there is any point to be clarified. So we have now discussed how we can navigate between the modes. I will keep it like this. In case we need the packet tracer, we can get back to the packet tracer. Now, how we can navigate the sub-configurations? To move in and out any sub-configuration mode, To get back to the global configuration mode, we will use what? The command exit. Now, to return to the privileged mode, we can use end or we can use Ctrl plus Z. So, to move from the line, we will not move to the global, from the line to the privileged mode. We can type in. So let us try. Now I am at the global privileged mode. I need to enter the global configuration mode. I need to enter the line console configuration mode. Now from the line, I need to jump directly to the privileged mode. End. As you see. Or we can use the shortcuts Ctrl plus Z. Also, you can move directly from one sub-configuration mode to another one by simply type the desired sub-configuration mode command. For example, we are at the user mode, configure terminal, we access the line. Now from the line, I need to configure the fast Ethernet 1.0. So the command, as you see, at the line sub-configuration, at the line interface fast Ethernet 0.1. So we already move directly from the line sub-configuration mode to what? To the interface sub-configuration mode. How I know? Config IF, interface, config line, console. What we have here, it's a video file of the navigation between the iOS. So it's discussing or showing you how you can use the enable, disable, configure terminal, what's the difference between exit and end, plus Ctrl and Z on the keyboard, which actually same as the end. I did not get your question. We have a multiple switches here, you mean? Why I select this one? Is there a question about this? طالب الرسالة. You're talking about the switch here. Okay. We do not have a multiple switches. You mean multiple ports? You mean a multiple ports, not a switches. We cannot configure the switch by using one of these ports. It's a physical port for the end device. We can use something called the switch virtual interface. I will talk about it later, this one. So we can access our switch remotely. But now, the only outbound option to configure our switch locally within the same network is to use the console. We cannot use any other one. Actually, I can see all the ports and I can see the console and everything here. Even I can enter the command line interface and work within the switch directly here. One more time, remember it for the last time. We must use the console. Out of band, the device is not connected to the network. It's not configured. This is initial configuration. So we should use the console. واضح الآن؟ سالم واضح؟ What's the command structure? We have a specific structure should be followed in order to write our command and execute that command correctly. So usually what we will have the prompt. From the prompt we can know which the mode, a privileged, user, a global, interface, line, and so on. Once after the symbol, what we have the first part is the command itself. Space. What comes after the command? Two types, either something called the keyword or arguments. So what's the difference between a keyword and argument? Keyword is a specific parameter defined in the operating system, like IP, it's the command space protocol. So the protocols here is what? It's a keyword. It's a predefined, already defined as a parameter in the operating system. For example, show startup config. Show, this is the command, space running config. So startup config, running config, arguments, keywords, sorry. It's already predefined, available within the OS. Now, what about the argument? A value defined by the user. A value written by the user and given by the user. For example, ping. Ping is used to verify the connection between a devices locally, for example, or globally. Ping what? What you want me to ping? So in this case, you need to provide the destination IP address, the logical destination IP address. So ping 192.186.1.5, for example, or .10.5. So what about this one? 192.168.10.5. It's an argument, not a keyword. So the keyword, a predefined. Argument, a user-defined value. Now, also, we are going to use the bold-face text and the italic text to distinguish between the comments, the keywords, and the arguments. Usually, comments, just for clarification, comments and its keywords are entered in the bold-face, bold line, bold written text. Arguments usually used to supply a value, to provide a value from the user. So we use the italic. So as you see, as a standards, when we talk about the comments, if it's in the bold face, bold line, indicates a comment and keywords. If it's an italic, in this case, it indicates what? An argument supplied by the users. It's a user value. Now, what if we see a square bracket? Square bracket indicates its optional elements. So you can add this keyword or not. You can add this argument or not. So square brackets, optional element. Braces, it's mandatory. You must provide a keyword or an argument. It becomes mandatory. So it depends on the braces type. Square brackets, optional, braces, argument. Finally, what we have a nested here, interleave between the brackets, the square brackets, and the braces. What if I have an option now? What if I have optional arguments? Either you can use the option 1 or we can use the option 2. So braces and vertical lines within a square brackets indicate a required choice within optional elements. So here you can select X. X is optional. Now what we have here, what we have here, let me just use a different color. We have Y and Z. Y and Z enclosed inside braces. Braces means it's mandatory. We should provide one of these values. Now, what we have, I have a line, vertical line between them. Vertical line means you can select Y or you can select Z, but you must select one of them. Is it clear, this one, the last one? So we have optional with multi-value required. We have X as an optional, but we need to select from two mandatory variables. الآن الkeyword, the keywords already comes provided by the operating system, like line space console. Console is keyword. Interface space fast Ethernet. Fast Ethernet here is what? Is a keyword. IP space protocols. Protocols here is keyword. It's already defined in the operating system. Bing now is the keyword. Bing what? You must provide as a user the IP address. So it's what? Argument وليست keyword. يعني keywords, it's similar to the programming languages. Reserved word. It has a specific meaning with a specific task. The argument, it's like the value you assign it to a variable. It should be provided by the user. Okay? As you see here, what we have a boldface and italic. Bing is the command. Now IP address, it's an italic, okay? So the command, bing, the argument, this one is an argument, 10.10.10.5. So trace route and IP address. Trace route is a command. IP address here is an argument. Now, sometimes the command will become very complex. It's a complex. So we have a multiple arguments, and sometimes we need to select between the multiple arguments. So it will be a longer commands, as you see here. Now, which one is the command here? For this example, what's the command? The command only switch port. Now, port security, aging, for example, it's what? Keyword, commands. Now, we can select static or time. We can select a type. With a type, we can select absolute or the other one. How I know? Brackets, we have vertical line. Brackets, I have vertical line. So follow the standards or the convention. You can understand and recognize any written command. Now, also Cisco iOS will provide a help feature for the users in order to minimize the errors as much as they can. So in general, iOS has two different help or providing two forms of help available for the user. Context sensitive help and command syntax check. For context sensitive help, for example, it enables you to quickly answer the following question. Which command available at each mode? Do you know how we can know which command available at each mode? Simply, I am now aware at which mode the user. Type a question mark. Type a question mark. So we can use connect, disable, disconnect, enable, exit, logout, bin, resume, and so on. Now enter the user mode. The privileged mode, sorry. Type a question mark. We have the first page. Now if you click space here, when we see more, if you click space, we will move one more on the output. I will repeat it. If we click enter, you will just simply move one line. So let us say space, next part, enter one line. Now what if I click any other keys instead of the space bar or the enter? It will end the output. So what is this? Context sensitive help. Also, iOS provide what? Command syntax check, which used what? In order to verify have you entered a correct structured command or not. In case you have entered the correct commands with the correct keywords and argument, it will be executed without any problem. In case it cannot be interpreted correctly, it cannot be executed, you will what? Receive this message. Invalid input detected at the, let me say, exponent or at this symbol. So what's the error here? Interface. F here should be an uppercase, capital letter, fast Ethernet 01. So it's an error message. Invalid syntax format. It's a command syntax checker. What we can do also with the question mark. Now suppose we are at the privilege mode. Write CO, then a question mark. What does that mean? What are the commands started with CO? So we have config, connect, copy. What are the commands started with DI? Question mark. We have dir, we have a disable, we have disconnect. So it's what? A context sensitive help as well. Now, also we are going to introduce to you some hotkeys and shortcuts. I will be a little bit faster here. So the iOS provides some hotkeys and shortcuts that make the configuration or configuring, monitoring, and troubleshooting an easier process. So commands and keywords can be shortened to the minimum number of characters that identify a unique selection. For example, configure commands can be shortened to write only config, because configure is only the command begins with CO and F. Let me show you this here, and you will understand it quickly. Now, if we type CON question mark, so we have only config and connect. These two commands started with CON. Now, if we write CONF, only one command at the privileged mode started with CONF. So if you type only CONF, con, instead of type the full word configure, it will be understood, and you have select the configure command uniquely. So conf space. Now we know what comes with the conf, configure, the keyword terminal, just type T. Just we type what? T. So where we are now? At the global configuration mode. How I know it will we work? exit, okay, space, question mark. So what come with configure comments? We have what? Terminal. Terminal, it's the only one started with T. So no need to write the full comments, just conf T. You are now, sorry, it's incorrect as you see here, invalid message, which means your comment cannot be understood. So just, sorry, conf space T, enter. Now we are at the global configuration mode. Is it clear? What is this? Shorten the comment. واضحة؟ طيب now, also we can use some keystrokes on the keyboard that will help us and make the editing of the command line process more easier. What if you use a tab? Tab is used to complete a partial comment. Complete the comments. Exit. Now if I write conf and press tab, as you see, the full comment words is completed. I will press T and then tab. Terminal is already completed. Backspace. What if you click or press on the backspace keystroke? Erase one character to the left of the cursor. Left arrow or Control B. Move the cursor one character to the left. Right arrow or Control F moves the cursor one character to the right. Up arrow. What's the previous comment? We will recalls the comments in the history buffer. But when we recall the history buffer, we will begin with what? With the most recent command, the last command we have execute. For example, here, I will press up arrow. Last one is exit. As you see. Enter. So exit is executed at the global configuration mode. Now, what about this? This is my comment, which was executed at the privileged mode. The last one was configure terminal. The one before config T, the shortened one, and so on. So how these features will become simple and easy to use? The answer is one word: practice by yourself. Practice by yourself. Open the bucket tracer. When you open the bucket tracer, by the way, they will ask you to log in. You need to enter your name, your email, the student email, the one used to access the Net Academy, and the password if you have changed the password. I think the initial password is your student ID, right? What's the initial password? What's the initial password was? مين فتح النت أكاد يا جماعة؟ إيش كانت الباسورد إجاكم بالإيميل باسورد يعني ولازم تغيروها؟ أوكي. أوكي. طيب بير. Good. طيب now let us talk about more. When we execute any comment and we see at the end of the terminal word, this one, tamam. We see this one more, like this. Question mark. As you see what I have here, more. More means we need what? To present more output. If you click on a space bar means display the next screen. So this is the next screen. One more time. If you click enter, only display the next line. If you click any other key, simply return me to what? To the privileged execute mode. I click T here. Okay? Control C and Control Z, Control Shift 6. Now, what's the difference between these? Now, Control C and Z mainly doing the same similar task. When in any configuration mode, it ends the configuration mode and return you to the privileged exec mode. So Control C, exit this mode and move me back to the privileged mode. Control Z is the same. Now, according to the Cisco experts, according to the user experience, it's most recommended to use the Control Z, not the Control C. What about Control Shift 6? Now, in case you are executing the ping or the DNS lookup or a traceroute command, if you want to terminate, break the execution or abort the DNS lookup, the traceroute or the ping, simply Control plus Shift plus number 6 will terminate the execution or will abort the traceroute or the lookup process. Now, what we have here, it can be accessed through Cisco Academy, a video explaining and covering the tab key to complete the commands, how we can shorten our command, conf T, for example, up, down arrows, Control C, Control Z, Shift plus 6, even we have a Control R and we have many others, by the way, hotkeys. So once this part is done, you should be able to do, by using the bucket tracer, you should be able to navigate between the modes, explore the execute mode, check the commands available at each one, okay, and set the clock of the switch or set the clock of the router. So how we can change the time? It's already available on the first activity for this module. Now, let us talk about the basic configurations. This one is very important. Any question before we continue? واضح الآن عندي إيش يعني مود، إيش يعني user, privilege, global configuration, line, console. We can navigate between them. هذا مهم جدا. تكمل العملي. طيب، ممتاز. طيب, now, how we can change the host name? عشان يكون مش تقريبا 100%، اشتغل بعد المحاضرة، نزل الباكت تريسر وابدأ جرب. شوف الفيديوز عن نت أكاديمي بعدين ابدأ جرب. Now, in order to change the host name can be changed from the global configuration mode. How we can change the host name? By using the command host name followed by the new name of your host. Now, the new name of our host here is a keyword or argument. For example, this one, as it was a switch or a router as a default name, a factory name assigned. Now, by default, all the devices will be assigned a name from the factory, switch, router, whatever. Now, how we can change the name of the device? We can change it from the global configuration mode by using the command host name. Now, what's the type of SW? SW stands for switch minus floor. So this switch is located at floor number 1. But SW dash floor dash 1 is what? Keyword ولا argument هذه؟ لازم تجاوبوا. It's argument. It's not a predefined. We give it this name. So it's an argument. Thank you. معناها فاهمين. So we have some guidelines to select the name for the device. It should start with letter, for example. This is a convention, a rules, guidelines. It's not a mandatory, but it's recommended. It contains no space. End with a letter or a digit. Use only letter, digit, and dashes. So do not use any special character. It should be less than 64 characters in length. Now, suppose we change the host name. How we can delete and get back to the factory name? Simply, no host name comments. Also add the global configuration mode. So this is the last comments I'm going to show you and close my bucket tracer. Now I'm at the privilege mode. Type host name. I get an error. Why? Host name command should be executed as the global configuration mode. You can configure the device and change its name at the global configuration. So let us wait till we get back to the privileged, move to the config terminal, config T, move from the config T, then we can use the host name command. What I did here, I abort the process. How I abort it? Shift, Control plus 6. Now, config terminal. Now we are at the global. Just type HOS. It's completed. The command HOS question mark. So we have only host name as a command. So host name and every other name. My, for example, my dash test dash SW. So as you see, the host name I will talk about this later. The host name changed. Now we need to return to the old name. No host name. Okay. Right. What we are going to talk about now, make sure password, how we can a basic device configuration, how we can secure every mode. We are going to set a password to the user mode, privileged, a global. So the use of weak and easily guessed password are a security concern. So make sure to select a good password when we talk about this. All network devices should limit administrative access by securing the privileged execute mode and the user exec mode. Also, we can secure the remote access. So we need to secure the telnet with a password as well. So we have some guidelines when you select the password in order to secure the user privileged and the remote access. Use a password that more than 8 characters, for example. One more time, it's a guidelines. Use a combination between upper and lower case, numbers, digit, and special characters. Avoid using the same password for all the devices. Do not use a common words that can be guessed. Now, you will notice that during the practice and during the activities provided by NetAcad, we use 2 passwords such as Cisco and the class. Now, Cisco and the class are weak password, considered very weak password and can be easily guessable. And should not or should be avoided in a production environments. So only for clarification, to make it a simple, during the activities we use a Cisco password or a class password. So let us see how we can protect each mode. Now, in order to secure the user execute mode, we need to follow the following step. First one, we need to enter to the line console 0. Why 0? Line is the command, console is the management port, 0 because there is only a single line or console connection available within that switch or router. So what's the number of the console will be 0. If we have two console, 0 and 1, 3, 0, 1, 2, and so on. So we need to enter the line mode. At the line mode, we will use the command password followed by your password. Finally, we need to enable the password. So what we'll use? Login command, enable the user accessing by using the login command. And finally, we can exit that mode by using end command. So following is the steps. From the privilege mode, we need to enter the global. We enter the global now. We need to enter the line. We are at the line configuration mode. So password is the command followed by the password Cisco. Login, activate the login for the user. Execute mode. End the configuration. Now we move back to the global configuration mode. So next time you try to log in by using the console, they will ask you at the console to provide what? A password. So simply we are at the global configuration mode, line console 0, password Cisco, login, and done. Now it's already set. As you see, when I click enter, they ask me what? To enter the password now, to enter the user mode. So I enter the password Cisco, I already access the user mode. Now, in order to secure the privilege mode, now the privilege, we need to access the global configuration mode. From the global configuration mode, we will use the password, the commands enable, keyword secret, followed by the password. So enable secret plus. It's not removed. It still is not moved. Maybe we will not copy the configuration. We cannot change it, or we can use a no password. So, in order to secure the privilege mode now, you need to access the global configuration mode, and then we can use the command enable secret followed by the argument, which is the password. So enable secret class. Our password now for the privilege mode is a class. What about the virtual terminal, VTY? Now we have a line configuration and line virtual terminal. VTY actually, okay, or line terminal is the remote login that can be used to access what? To access the switch remotely. So in order to secure the virtual connection, usually VTY is a line enable, remote access using a telnet or the secure shell, the SSH. Many Cisco switches support up to 16 virtual terminal. VTY stands for virtual terminal lines that are numbered from 0 to 15. So you can, provide a password for each one of them, or you can just assign a single password for all the remote access line, the virtual terminals. How? You need to access, first step, the global configuration. From the global configuration, we are going to access the virtual terminal line, VTY, from 0 to 15. Now, we already enter now the virtual terminal line. We will use the command password like the one we have used to secure the user mode. So password Cisco, login, activate, end in order to exit the line virtual or VTY mode, configuration mode. واضح؟ Now, one more problem, that if you just set the password, if we secure our user mode and secure our privileged mode and secure the line, then at the privileged mode we run this command, show running config. Show me the VRAM now, what we have inside the RAM. You will see that the password will be printed as a text, as it is, the plain text. So it's insecure. So how we can encrypt our password? Encrypt all the plain text. In order to encrypt all the plain text and make the password encrypted, we can use service password encryption at the global configuration mode. So we enter the global configuration mode. At the global, we type service password encryption. Once you re-execute this command, show running config, now line connection 0, password before this will be printed as a Cisco. Now the password is shown as what? As a ciphertext. It's unreadable. How we can convert the plain text and encrypt it as a ciphertext? At the global mode, you use service password encryption. Finally, we need to learn how we can add a warning message, a banner message, which means before the user enter the password at the user mode or any mode, they will get a message. Only authorized users are allowed to access. If you are an authorized user, enter your password to get an access. How we can display this message? We can use the banner message. In order to create the banner message of the day on the network devices, we use banner MOTD hash followed by the message. Or usually we use the hash symbol as a command syntax. It's called delimiting characters. So whatever comes between the hash will be what? The warning message to be displayed to the user. يعني هذه زي رسالة تحضيرية قبل ما يدخل. Only authorized users are allowed to access. So how we can add this message? From the global configuration mode. Banner, MOTD, hash, you type the message and ended by or terminated by another hash sample. So whatever between the hash here is what is the message to be listed to the user or displayed to the user. As you see, authorized access only. Authorized access only. Just I need 10 minutes, please. 10 minutes. 10 minutes or 15 minutes maximum. تحملونا. We should done with module 2. طيب في أي أسئلة؟ معلش راح نكون الآن شوية هيك أكثر. هو لأنه أول جزء بالعملي شوي بطيئين فيه. لأنه أول جزء بالعملي. طيب. How we can save the configuration? How we can save it? In general, we have two system files that store the device configuration. We have two types of files, startup config and running config. Startup config is none or NVRAM, non-volatile random access memory. Any configuration at the startup config will not lost, even if that device rebooted or the power goes down. Permanent memory for the configuration files. Now, I did not store all of my configuration here. So all my configuration actually at the running config, not at the startup config. So running config is a random access memory. It reflects the current configuration on that device. So modifying a running configuration affects the operation of Cisco device immediately. Now, running configuration is volatile. Random access memory is a volatile memory, متطايرة, which means we will lose all the contents reloaded, restarted, or the power is off. So, what if I did a configuration and I want to store my configuration permanently? I do not want to lose this configuration. I need it for the future. So we need here to what? Copy the running config to the startup config file. So to save the changes that made on the device configuration, we need to copy the running configuration, permanently save it to the startup configuration. How? Simply copy what? Running config space startup config. So whatever we made here, now it will be copied to the startup config, which is NVRAM, non-volatile random access memory. So we have saved now what? The configuration. One of the students question, I do not want this. I do not want the passwords. I set it. I need to remove everything. Just erase the startup config. In this case, it's like that we are what? Going to reset our device. So, if any change made to the running config do not have the desired effect and the running config is still not saved, you can simply restore your device to its previous configuration. How? Remove the change of each device, commands individually, no host name, no password, no whatever, switch off a port or something, or we can simply reload the device at the the privileged mode. So reload is what? I did some changes here. Okay. Reload. It will not execute it because I am at the user mode. Enable. Reload. System configuration has been modified. Save. No. Enter. Proceed to reload. Enter. The device is reloaded now. So whatever I have at the running config is not reflected to the startup config. So we reset it to the factory now, or to the point before we do some configuration at the running config. Now, what if you already copy the running config, to the startup config. After you copied the new configuration, you decide you do not need them. So simply you need to reset the device. How we can reset it? By using the command line erase a startup config, where we can execute this command at the privileged mode. Reload a privileged mode. Copy startup config or copy running config to the startup config, a privileged mode. Show the startup config, privileged mode. Show the running config, a privileged mode as well. Now, this one I will go through it quickly. This is how we can just capture the configuration. Take the configuration that we have made and store it as a text file. So in case we need it for the backup for any future issues, we can restore it from that text file. What we have here is the steps that how you can copy all the configuration you have made, store it in your computer as text file. Even it can be done for the routers from here. For example, here erase, as you see, delete the running config, save the running config, export. So we'll export the startup config as a text. So it's the same, but here what we are going to use, we are going to use the PuTTY emulator. So 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, you will copy the configuration as a text file and keep it as a record for any maintenance or future use. Okay? Also, as you know, for all the devices, in order to communicate with each other, the devices needs an IP address. The IP address is very important, and we have two types of IP addresses. لا, I'm still having the share. بدي 5 minutes يا جماعة ل 10 minutes and I will done. شايفين الباوربوينت؟ Now no need for the packet tracer. I will close it. Do you want to save? No. بس بدي 5 دقائق يا جماعة. 5 minutes only. لازم نخلصها معلش. طيب, IP address is very important. A primary means enable the devices to locate each other and communicate with each other. Now we have two types, IP version 4, IP version 6. IP version 4 simply is 32 bits value. It's written in the dot decimal notation, so which means we have 4 numbers separated by dot. Each one is 8-bit size, so each one can assign the value from 0 to 255. Also, we can provide the default gateway IP address to the router, or the device should know what's the default gateway in order to communicate with other networks globally. Now, how we can assign an IP address? We can use an interface. Start, control panel, network, right-click, device parameters, or connection properties. You can assign an IP address. You can provide the IP address with subnet mask. You can even write the default gateway. The default gateway is what? The router IP address. So in case I want to send a message to other devices located in different network, my message will be sent to the router, which is the default gateway. The router will handle the routing process. Quickly, you need to know that the IP address divided into two parts, network portion and host portion. How we can differentiate between them? Through the subnet masks. So the network portion here is 192.168.1. The host portion here is only 10. And we are going to talk about the IP4, the subnetting, in full details in advanced courses. IP version 6 is another IP format. It's 128 bits length. We are using the hexadecimal notation to represent or to write the IPv6 address by using hexadecimal values. Now, every 4 bits will be represented by single hexadecimal digits. So here the 2 is 4 bits. As a hexadecimal, 0 is 4 bits, O is 4 bits, 1 is another 4 bits. Now, how we separate between the hexadecimal digits? By using the colon. So every 4 groups, or the group of 4 hexadecimal digits, will be separated by colon. Same. IPv6 is not or are not case sensitive, and it can be written either in lowercase or uppercase. Also, we are going to talk in full details about the IP version 6, submitting the colon, and how we can shortcut, let me say, or minimize its length when we write it. Finally, interface ports. Network communication depend on end user device, interfaces networking, devices interfacing, and cable that connect between them. In other way, without an interface at the end devices sites, we cannot communicate them with each other. We have a multiple different interfaces with multiple different medium can be used. For the Ethernet, we can use a copper, Cat5, Cat6 cable, coaxial cable. We can use a fiber optic medium and fiber optic connector, or we can use a wireless and electrical signal. So different type of network media have a different features and benefits. Some of the differences between the different types of the medias are: what are the main differences between the communication media? The distance it covers. The environment of the media is to be installed. The amount of data and the speed. For example, we know the fastest one is the fiber connection. The cost of that media and the installation. Finally, how we can configure an IP address to an interface. By using the GUI, we can configure the IP address either by using a dynamic IP address at each time. You can leave. خلاص. خليني بس أشوف اسمك. معلش يعني بس شو بدنا نساوي؟ مضطرين اليوم نخلص. نورا you can leave يا نورا خلاص. Noted. Okay. Only Noura ya Jama'a, wait. So in devices in the network, they need an IP address in order to communicate with each other. IP address can be assigned to each end device automatically. How automatically? By using a protocol called DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Or we can manually configure the IP address. How the IP address can be manually configured? Control panel, network sharing center, change adapter setting, then you can select the properties. Right-click on the selected adapter, press in properties. From the properties, we can now assign an IP, subnet mask, default gateway, even a DNS also. What's the preferred DNS? What's the alternative DNS as well? So once we click in properties, we will go to the Internet Protocol version 4, the TCP/IP version 4 properties. This window will appear. Within this window, we can configure our device. I think all of you knows what is this, right? في داعي نعطي تفاصيل أكثر فيها؟ Now, for the dynamic host configuration protocol, as I said, it will assign or provide an ID or IP number to the interface. If it's obtained manually, you should write the IP address, subnet mask, gateway. If it's obtained automatically, it will be under the control of the DHCP server or the access point when I talk about the home network. Even the domain name services or the domain name system, the DNS, which will map the link to the actual IP, doing the mapping of the IPs, it will be what? I will talk about it. لحظة يا جماعة لحظة. So we can use automatic or manual DNS configuration. Now, how we can do this on a switch? Now, a switch is simply divided into two parts, layer 2 and layer 3 switches. I'm done. This is the last two slides. The problem, layer 2 switches have a physical ports. These physical ports used to connect to the device, which means there is no ports. We can use it to connect that switch and configure that switch remotely or access that switch remotely. Now you need to know, layer 2 switches have one or more switch virtual interface, SIV. These virtual interfaces, because there is no physical hardware, because of this we are saying a switch virtual interface. We do not have a hardware interface. And it's actually created in a software. So the virtual interface allows us as a user to manage our switch remotely. So we can access our switch by using IP version 6 or IP version 4. So each switch will come with one switch virtual interface. And it can appear in the default configuration. The default switch virtual interface is VLAN 1. So when we say VLAN 1, go to the interface VLAN 1. We are talking about the switch virtual interface, which will be used to assign the switch an IP address in order to access our switch remotely. I'm talking about layer 2 iOS switches. So how we can access the switch virtual interface? It's installed or created in a software. There is no physical board called VLAN 1. It's a virtual interface in the switch. So configuration, a global configuration mode. From the global configuration mode, interface VLAN 1. Now we are at the interface virtual LAN 1. We can assign an IP address. How? IP space address. We give it the IP address and followed by the subnet mask. Now we need to make it an active, enable the virtual interface. We need to execute the command no shutdown. So now we have assigned IP address to our switch on the virtual switch interface. It can be accessed remotely from the telnet or the SSH. So how we can assign IP address to any interface? What's the command? IP address followed by the IP and the subnet mask. Now what about the gateway? Similar to the host, a switch configuration or a switch is configured with an IP address will also need a default gateway. Why we need a gateway? To connect to the global network, outside network, internet network. So how we can also configure the gateway? By using the IP default gateway followed by the IP address in the global configuration mode. So we enter the global configuration mode. we enter the virtual LAN or the switch virtual interface. We assign an IP address. We activate it, no shutdown. Now we exit the VLAN interface, the line 1. And what we can, interface, it's not a line. And then IP default gateway is 192.168.1.1. So what the switch will do now, in case the message will be sent to other device, to any other device within the same network, the switch will directly deliver the message to the other node. In case the message to be sent to a device located in different network, the switch will forward the message, in this case, to the default gateway. The default gateway actually is our router. Is our interface first port to the internet. How we can verify the connectivity? We can use ping in order to verify the connectivity, and we can use another command as well. So it's recommended to go to the Net Academy and check this video. Now this is the end of the class.